Okay, we're ready.
All right. So far we've discussed quite a bit. Just to clarify again, we're speaking about a man that's going through a journey. It's going through a journey, and the question it's asking is, "Kiv sachiara hoyi hai? Kiv kooda tutte paal?" How does it become truthful? How does it get rid of its filth? And the answer given is Hukam Razain Chalana, Nanak Likhya Nad. So something that's written within, that's written with us. So the whole of the Japani is answering that question. It's taking the man on this journey to become pure so that it can gain oneness with the divine. So now 40 number 5 starts off with Hapya Najai, cannot be established. The man that has its filth cannot be established in the court of the divine. Kita na hoy. It cannot do it with its man ki man, with the ego way of thinking that the man has. It cannot do. It cannot be established. Ape ap niranjan soe. The divine is pure, without darkness, without impurity. Niranjan, without filth, without darkness, without impurity. So pure, completely pure. The divine is all things pure, complete purity. So when we think about the negatives, anything negative is not divine. So all things pure, complete purity. And how does this help us understand the divine? This helps us understand that if all things of the divine are pure, then we must become that purity to gain oneness with the divine. Now, Gurbani teaches us, Anjan Mahe, Niranjan Rahiye. So, this outside world, there is impurity, there is darkness, there are negatives. How can we become pure within this world? How can we live with purity? So we gain the divine wisdom and we live with purity. We become pure within the impurity. Just like there's the analogy of the lotus flower. It is within the dirty water, within the filthy water, but it rises above it. So it is within impurity, yet rises above. So Anjan Mahe, Niranjan Rahiye. So our man is impure, and it needs to gain the wisdom from the divine to become Niranjan, because that is the source of purity. Jin sevya, tin paya man. Those that serve that wisdom, those that gain that wisdom, that man that gains that wisdom obtains honor. What honor? The honor of virtues. It gains virtues. Nan gavye guni nidhan. That treasure, it gives that treasure of virtues the utmost value. We spoke about being in a state of gave. That state of gave that the man is in, that it values divinity. It is always in the state of divinity. So it always wants to become that divinity. गाविए सुनिए मन रखिए पाओ. Gaviye, being in that state of valuing divinity, valuing virtues, virtuous living. Suniye, being in the state of listening to that wisdom. Man rakhiye pao. Within the man, having love for that path, having love for that wisdom, holding only love for that wisdom. So complete value of it and follow it with love. Dukh par har, sukh kar le jaye. Dukh, suffering, pain, parhar, goes away, is taken away. Sukh kar le jaye. We gain sukh, peace, rabbi, sukh, anand, kheda, bliss. Our experience within becomes that of bliss. Gurumukh Nadan. So we look at Gurumukh and we've understood Gurumukh as the voice of the Guru. Guru de mukh to nikli awaz. Guru is within us. Satgur mera sada sada, na ave na jaye. O avinashi purak hai, sab mein rahya samaye. So within us is the Guru's mukh, our inner voice. That is the nad. You know, we speak about nad, the sound, the vibration, and common language. We listen to that and it gives us peace. Now we're talking about the words, the wisdom of the Guru. That is the nad, which puts us in a state of complete focus. Gurmukh Vedan, the wisdom. Guru's voice is the wisdom. The words that come from the enlightener within us, that is the Ved. That is the wisdom. Gurmukh Rahya Samai. It's all pervading within us. That wisdom is all pervading within us. So it has control over us completely, if our man allows it to. Gur Ishar, the enlightener, the Guru within us, is the Ishar, is the all-powerful, has the control over us within nature. The nature that is within us, the system that is within us, the Guru has control over that. Gur Gorak, Burma, Gur Gorak, that enlightener, that wisdom from the enlightener. Go means our world, not the outside world, the inner world. Go, Tarti, go, Rak, stabilizer. That wisdom that stabilizes our inner world. In Gurbani it says, Jo mandar ko thame thaman, tyon gur ka shabad mane asthaman. The way the house is supported by the pillar, in that way, our man is supported by the wisdom. We gain stability. We are not going on highs and lows. We gain stillness. Burma, creative, creation, not destructive. We gain creative, virtuous qualities. We gain virtues. All things creative, beautiful, not destructive, not negative. Gur, Parbati, Mai. Par, across. Bati, from the word Suhagvati. Mai, mat, meaning thinking. The enlightener is the wisdom, the thinking that makes us the bride of the divine, gives us that mind, gives us that thinking that makes us the bride of the divine. Suhagvati. Suhagini. Now, what does it say in Gurbani? What is that? Jai pucho suhagini, tusi ravya kinni guni. Sahaj, santok, shingarya, mitha bolani. So we gain that thinking, we become a being of sahaj, santok, so stillness, contentment, shingar. These are our ornaments. These beautiful qualities become our ornaments. We gain that sort of thinking that we gain these ornaments. Mitha bolani. We spoke about this last time. Pakya pao apar. Speech of love. Of our man. The speech of our man becomes that of love. So all of our actions, all of our thoughts become that of love. Gur Parbati Mai. Par. That thinking that takes us across the Paujal. Water body of fear, of all the negative thinking, of all the suffering. We swim across, we get across that. We get across that suffering because we've gained the bal, the mindset, the powerful strength, strong mindset that swims across of that. We do not suffer. We rise above the suffering. Je ho jana akhana. If I understand, if my man understands this, akanahi, it does not speak its will. Man ki mat, it does not speak its man ki mat. Je ho jana akanahi. Kehna kathan na jai. It cannot save itself from its negatives. It does not have the power to do so. Gura ik de bujhai. The Guru, the enlightener within us, gives us this one understanding, gives us this understanding of oneness. Could you go down, Saki? Sabna jiyan ka ik data. So it says the word jiyan. All of the jiyan. So in this pankti, we're talking about jijant, the animalistic behaviors within us. Sabna jiyan, all the animals within us. So sabna jiyan ka ik data. That one, the Guru provides us with this understanding that we gain through the giver, through the Guru's wisdom. That's the dat, that's the giving. our jijant, the animals within us, gain wisdom. They grow out of their vices. So how does that translate here? So what are the vices? What are those vices that are not meant for me? They're in nature, and we can't even call them anything. We just call them part of nature. So the dog, for example, has the trait of being dominant. The fish gets tempted by its taste, so it gets caught. The snake has poison within it, and it hides that poison. It holds on to that poison by wrapping around its whole body around its head to really hold on to that poison. These things are in nature. These things are not meant for me. As for me to become humane, I need that giving. I need that wisdom from the divine to feed these animals within me the wisdom and to elevate from these vices and become a being of virtues so that I could establish my man in the court of the divine. Sthapana karni hai. Because I cannot do that with the way I am. Thapya na jaye. With all the vices that I have, thapya na jaye. So I need to gain that wisdom. Sabna jiyan ka ek data, so main visar na jaye. May I not forget that. So main visar na jaye. एक कड़ी ना मिलते ता कल जुग होता. Even a one moment that I forget, I gain this inner state of kal jug, of suffering. Kal kal vali avastha. I cannot be an anand. So may I not forget this wisdom that provides me with this nectar of immortality, so I do not suffer. I gain this amrit from within, and I feed it to my animals, and I elevate into a virtuous being. May I not forget that source, so that I can experience the bliss and remain in this experience of bliss. Okay, so we'll conclude that explanation there. Any questions or anything that stood out? Or anything that you would like to add?
I think just from the first line, when I read Tapya na jaye kita no hoy, I didn't read it as man cannot establish. I read it as like the wisdom can't be explained, or more along the lines of like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I wasn't. I definitely didn't read it as man cannot establish itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking of the same thing. But the months filled cannot be established does not go with the second line, then ape ap niranjan soy. The the tapanajai, that wisdom cannot be established or created. It is already within you. Uh, Goes with the flow. Because if we're talking about Mun's filth cannot be established, and then we're going to wisdom is Niranjan, doesn't add up. It's beautifully thought, but for me, I think wisdom works better as an understanding of that, and it flows better with the rest of the Shabad because we talk about monkey man, but then we're not explaining the monkey man. But if we're going with the wisdom, we are explaining the wisdom. If that, in my head, that makes more sense.
Okay. Apya na jaye, kita na hoye. Ape ap niranjan soye. So when we're talking about this, because we're taking it 40 to 40 to 40, we're trying to understand it from the man's perspective. Because now when we speak about the divine, yes, we're calling it pure. We're calling it without any impurity. So we kind of need to understand that the man itself is the one that has anjan, the one that has court, the one that is impure. So if we're talking about the man reaching a certain state, which is that of niranjan, we kind of need to mention about the man as well. Which again, I'm not disagreeing with what we are saying. It's just how I understand it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So that's why in my head it made sense to, understand this as the man not being able to be established
Right.
in the court of the divine. The man cannot be established, which in Gurbani makes sense, right? Because that's the whole of Gurbani that's being explained over there.
I mean, it does make sense the way you explain it because, again, my man is not. It's constantly moving. It's unstable. So in that sense, I can see it where it's going. But my first thought was the wisdom is so vast, it cannot be because it's ever changing, right? Like uh, we talked about it in the previous parties too, where the wisdom is so infinite because it's ever changing, it's moment to moment. That's where my idea was coming of, like Tapya na Jai.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting because the more we read Gurbani, we start to realize that majority of places, basically 90% of the places where it speaks about the word ap or ape, or it's speaking about something, it's speaking about the man. When it says the word jinn, it's speaking about the man. So once we start to see that more, we start to understand that we're not praising God, right? This isn't a text. These aren't words that are praising God. It's not like I'm going to read this, oh, you're amazing, you're great. It's teaching me divine is perfect. I must become like that. So out of that thought process, this would align with that. Because the wisdom is established. Right? The wisdom is established. Papya na jaye. No, I don't need to establish that. That's established. My man is not established.
Yeah.
For my man to be established, it needs to become that wisdom. It needs to become Satgur ki mat.
And I would say to that, the concept of wisdom is established. What the wisdom is established, but the wisdom within an individual is not. And it cannot be just established by doing a certain thing, right? Like if I'm like, I do X, Y, Z things, I will establish that wisdom. That's not how it works, right? Or, Kitano, like, it cannot be created. Like, I can't eat something or drink something or, again. But again, like, I think it's still going back to making sense on how we follow the path of wisdom at the end, and if this way is better understood. I think
Mm.
that is fine.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, I'm also connecting it to the third line because if it's talking about my man cannot be established, it cannot do, it cannot create, because the divine is the source that is pure. And if that man serves that wisdom, that purity, then by man, then that man gains the honor.
and yeah, in that way, it can be compared in both translations. In your way, if the filthy mind cannot be established, how it cannot be established if you serve that wisdom, right? Or if that wisdom can never be established or created, what do you need to get that wisdom? Is you serve that wisdom. Um, it's just it just flows better in my head because that just having it just doesn't connect unless, like you said, like when you once you have a deeper understanding and you understand other shabads. And but I don't believe, I mean, understanding more shabads will give you a deeper understanding, but I don't believe that it needs to be that deep to understand the message. Because even with this basic understanding, the message can still be conveyed of following that wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Well, in a nutshell, the message that Gurbani is, providing us with is gur ki mat tu le aane, pagat bina bahut dube syane. So it's teaching us avgun chhod guna ko tavo, kar avgun pachtai jiyo mera. So it's teaching the man to gain that wisdom so that we do not drown, so that we do not drown in suffering. And it's always speaking about this. Of course, this is a high level, right? It's always building us, it's putting us on this journey to do that. So we become that. That is the destination. We work towards that. And of course, the more we work towards that, the less we suffer, the more bliss we gain. So what's really being said is we cannot go in that we cannot go in that zone. We cannot be there with our impurities. We need to remove our impurities by gaining the wisdom from the source of purity. And the more we do that, the more we get established in that court of the divine. So it's always speaking about the man being established by gaining from the source of purity. And on its own, it cannot do anything. It can only do through the wisdom, by gaining that wisdom. Apni man di mat naal nahi kita ja sakda. It will always suffer with the man ki mat. That suffering is inevitable always with the man ki mat. And it can only be cured through Satgur ki mat. Satgur ki jisno mat aave, so Satgur mahe samana. We merge as we gain that mat.
Um, and then just a side, I one of the translations that um, I was listening to when they go over Gur Isa, Gur Gorak, Burma, Gur Parvati Mai. I think they also had something very interesting, a good way to look at it. The way you explain it is also nice. Um, but I think it's interesting whenever uh, the, the other divine figures are mentioned in our scripture, understanding the deeper message is 100%, the main idea. But I think our gurus were also very smart people, and there's always some beyond that deeper meaning, like just on the surface level. They're mentioning the names maybe for something else as well. And the way that this translation went was the order that they're in which they're mentioned in. Isar, which is Shiva, is the destroyer, and you need to destroy your ego first, and then the Gorak, the Vishnu, who is the sustainer. Once you destroy your ego, then you can learn to sustain yourself, and then Brahma is the creator. Then you create the understanding of life. So I was like, that's pretty cool. So, and I forget what Parvati was after that. So I take I like understanding on deeper level for sure, but also like on surface level because it like also helps you understand at the time of Guru Nanak Dev Ji or all the gurus, what were the people believing it or practicing it, right? And then how the gurus help us see that those divine figures are their their wisdom is within us, and how we can use their teachings to find that wisdom. I think that's pretty interesting. I liked that thought process. Yeah, just a side note.
Well, it's pretty much like this, right? Modern day, of course, there's a lot of surface level, understanding of certain words. And because of that, things get skewed in many ways as well. But, it's not, I'm not saying that, we're understanding it as good or we're not understanding it as good. But I'm saying is that these words have meanings behind them, right? So, of course, modern day, when we listen to people, they're like, oh, this figure, Brahma, or this figure, Shiva, or this figure, Vishnu, and then this figure, Parvati. A lot of people then will make a murti and,
Yeah.
do puja. And that is the most surface level understanding and unwise understanding there could be when we don't understand the depth behind these words and how it can help us transform.
Right, yeah.
Right? We can do all of this murti puja or anything, and whoever decides to do it, that's up to them. But it's really not bringing any beauty into life, into our inner experience of life. So, these words are the words. And if someone has a problem with the word Parma, Ishar, Parvati, if people have problems with these words, it's because they're also looking at it from the surface level understanding. Because the deeper we understand these things, we stop having issues with these words because we start to look at what can I gain from these? What is there behind it? What's the deeper message that can teach me something? We have this common thing of Satgur bina hor kachi hai bani. We have, and when people hear that, they think Jo Guru Granth Sahib ne likhya hai, wo sacha hai, baki sab jhoot hai. And when we start to look at it like that, that's very surface level because we're not talking about Granth. We're talking about Satgur, our inner voice. That's the Sachi Bani. And our man ki mat is Kachi Bani. So our ego is the Kachi Bani. That is the one that leads us to be in a state of Balu ki bheet, wall of sand, that which collapses. Our man collapses because it is in a weak state. It is not fortified. It is a wall of sand because it has man ki mat. So we suffer, we fall, and the Satgur ki mat is the bal, which fortifies us, and we do not suffer, we do not fall. So, with that deep understanding, we get out of this whole argumentative state of that scripture is wrong or this scripture is wrong, and only the words in Guru Granth Sahib are, because we're not talking about that. Guru Granth Sahib is helping us understand the Guru's voice within us. So there's a lot of depth behind it, way too much depth that, we'll need to keep understanding this and growing our whole life. Taki, anything you'd like to share?
Nothing that's hasn't been said already.
Mm.
I was also reading Good Isar Good Gorak Brahma, as in like what are the qualities that we identify with those quote unquote gods, and then how do I take on those qualities as well? Because at the time there were different people worshiping different gods, but in on the surface level of, like you're saying, make a murti and worship that instead of going into like, because the Veds also have a lot of depth to them. Quran has a lot of depth to it, so like pulling from those ideologies as well and the same concepts that exist there of like Gur Isar, Gur Gorak, Gur Gur Gorak Brahma, like pull in from that meaning to appeal to the general public that they were talking, kind of sending the message to. Even though, yes, it's being talked about from Man's perspective, but the Man also is influenced by the current events that's happening around you. So the poetry that you write or the things that you think of, even for your own self, will have influences of the current events.
Of course, there's always that filter of the wisdom within us, right? What does Gurbani say? It says, Kabir man pankhi payo, ud deh dish jaye. Jo jaisi sangat mile, so taiso phal khaye. So it's telling us, it's, giving us this understanding that our man becomes a pankhi, becomes a bird. And it goes externally, goes outside, and it creates friendships with different ideas. Whereas Gurbani is teaching us to stay within. It's teaching us kar baithe guru tyayo. Within us, be influenced by the mat that is pervading within us. So it's teaching us not to take that quality of the bird. It's telling us our man to not become the bird. And now we have that filter, like we're living in the world, Anjan Mahe, Niranjan Rahiye. We're living in the world, Hasandya, Khilandya, Penandya, Kavandya, Viche Hobe Mukat. How do we become Mukat? By being influenced by the words, by the wisdom within us, while living in the world. And that prevents us from becoming funky, which will be influenced by everything around us. Because if we get influenced by everything around us, the world is impure. We will become impure.
Yeah.
All right. Anything to add, Amitoj?
Nope. I'm good.
Okay. So good. I think we went over that well. So we've gotten up to the 540. And So far, we're doing our best to connect. We're trying to understand the journey that the man is going on and transforming, and it's answering that question of Kim Satyara hoye, Kim Kure Tukte Pal. And we're understanding Hukam, we're understanding our inner voice, how we must become to become Satyar. Good. So anything you would like to conclude it on, Saki?
I think you did a good job already. You did conclude it. So, Uncle, do you have anything?
I'm not sure he's gonna add anything.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think this was great because I came in with a slightly different understanding. So having that discussion was good.
Mm.
Something to think about.
Something to always think about.
Yes.
If we could take something to think about out of it, then that's always going to be great.
For sure.
Because at the end of the day, as we spoke about before, it's not about agreeing or disagreeing. It's about holding space for it and seeing what value we can gain from it.
Yeah. Thank you as always.
Thank you very much, Saki. And
Appreciate you.
Coach.
Yeah.
And until next time, when we'll go over the 640, and Saki, you can put that out there when the next meeting will be.
Will do.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too.
You as well. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.